Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back in. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Barrett Brooks, Derek Gunn. I am Rob Ellis hanging out with you. Our next guest has been covering the NFL, actually covering the 49ers. This is year number 28 for him. You can follow him on Twitter at Maiocco NBCS. He does an amazing job for NBCS Bay Area. And he's got a great podcast, by the way, as
Absolutely.
Well. 49ers Talk, which is really entertaining. And it's Matt Maiocco. Matt, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to jump on a red-eye flight tonight and be in your fair city tomorrow morning. So I'm ready.
Matt, you lucked out weather-wise, man. It's going to be like high 40s. Like, so it is really not crazy, man. And for late January, it's pretty good, actually.
That's great. A little crisp, fast track, two fast teams.
Can you hear us?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you, Matt.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
Barrett, I think you're having problems, man. You want to hop off and get straightened out? Yeah. We'll get you fixed. So, Matt, let me hit you with this. Let's start with McCaffrey and Mitchell. We know they haven't practiced this week, and I know McCaffrey yesterday was, I'm playing. Like, no question there. But how, in your estimation, we saw him last week, continually coming out, kind of working on that. How serious do you think these two injuries are to these guys?
I would guess that Elijah Mitchell's injury is a little bit more of a concern because it's a strain to his groin, whereas McCaffrey, it's a contusion, so a bruise. So, it's one of those things where I know he was fighting through it last week, but, with a lot of treatment and everything else, he hasn't been practicing. They're going to be out there in a little while here in about an hour or so. So I'll be able to see what they're doing or if they're doing anything for this last practice. But, I don't think anything really changes with Christian McCaffrey. I don't think anything will really change with what the 49ers offense will try to do. And I don't think anything will change with how the Eagles want to play defensively. So, both those guys aren't 100%. Probably very few players who will line up on Sunday will be 100%. Mm-hmm. I just think that 49ers will move on as if he's 100% and not worry about any pitch count or anything like that for him.
Hey, Matt, it's been a while since we've had a chance to talk, man. Good to hear from you again.
Good to see you.
I've got to ask you this story, and people in Philadelphia, we're tired of hearing about this Brock Purdy. But I've got to ask you, man, this has been one of the best stories in all of football this season. What makes this kid what he is? I mean, obviously, every game he plays, it's a new level of intensity because he hasn't done it before at this level. But yet the kid plays like he has ice water in his veins. How does Shanahan get this out of him?
You guys know Nick Mullins, right?
Yeah.
He came out there. Was he there for 1 year?
Is he a couple years, Derek?
I think it was 2. I think it was
2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So Nick Mullins. When they drafted Brock Purdy with the final pick of this draft, I was talking to Kyle Shanahan, and he said, he's basically Nick Mullins. Well, which was like, okay, that's fine. Nick's a good quarterback. Nick's a backup. He will continue to be a backup quarterback in this league for a long time. But that was kind of the expectation. But once they got him in, they realized, oh no, he's more than Nick Mullins. He has a stronger arm. Mm-hmm. He has the elusiveness, the escapability. He throws at different arm angles. He's kind of like Nick in the sense that he's a football junkie. Yeah. So, he's going to be in this playbook. He's going to know the offense. But, man, I mean, this kid has just this it factor with the pocket presence, just knowing how to play the game. And he would be, whatever, if you think this is a bad term, but he's a really good game manager. Like, he knows down and distance. He knows he just knows the game very well. And I mean, the best thing that he's done, and he's done a lot of really good things, but the best thing that he's done in 8 games, he's thrown 3 interceptions. 1 was off the hands of one of his receivers, and he hasn't fumbled. And, I heard you guys in the last segment there, has he ever faced a pass rush like the Philadelphia Eagles? No. But who has?
Right. I mean, it's the 3rd most sacks in the history of the NFL. There's not a lot of
right. There's not a lot of precedent. Right.
Yeah.
So, but the thing I'll say about Nick and what I've heard about him through his 4 seasons at Iowa State was that whenever he'd have a bad game or a bad possession or whatever, it was always just the short memory. So it wasn't like he's one of these kids that I think he's gone through enough ups and downs in his college career playing at Iowa State. Sometimes they were, I think one year they were really good, 9-3. I think the next year they were right around 500. So he was kind of the central figure in what they were trying to do offensively. And so there was a lot on his shoulders. But I think what that success and failure helped him develop was kind of a thick skin and an ability to just kind of move past adversity. Now, granted, he hasn't faced a whole lot of adversity with the 49ers. They've rarely trailed. And I said what I said. I mean, he hasn't coughed up the ball at all. He's only played really the one true road game up in Seattle where it's very loud, and he handled that pretty well. Another game at Las Vegas, but there were more 49ers fans in the stands than Raiders fans. So, I mean, there's no question that this will be the biggest game, the biggest environment, the most challenging atmosphere, as well as the most challenging defense that he's faced. But up to this point, everything that we've thought like, well, he hasn't done this yet, then the next game he does it. So there's really just, I mean, I can't poke any holes in what Brock Purdy has done since he stepped into the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, for me, he's the poster child of a guy who played a lot of college football, 48 starts as opposed to Trey Lance. Like he was in college for 5 minutes,
And we still don't know. We know more about Brock Purdy than we know about Trey Lance.
Amazing, right? It's crazy. Let me ask you about the impact that McCaffrey's had. And really, since he was inserted in the starting lineup, you guys, 49ers haven't lost either. What's he brought and how has Shanahan utilized him to the utmost? Because let's face it, he was hurt a lot of late in Carolina, and you were wondering, is he ever going to get back to form of what we saw in his early years? And when he's been right in San Fran, he's looked like that guy.
Yeah, my thought, and you guys would know better than me, but where's the weakness of the Philadelphia Eagles defense? That's the question that Kyle Shanahan has had, nearly a week to ponder.
Yeah,
and whatever Kyle Shanahan has determined, has diagnosed, is the weakness that they're going to try to exploit, more than likely on third downs. That's probably where you'll see Christian McCaffrey. And they do a number of things through different formations, shifts, motions to isolate the matchup that they want to exploit, whether that's whatever that might be. I mean, Kittle's a pretty good chess piece in that way too, where if it is a safety, and maybe you guys tell me if there's a safety who's not great in coverage or a linebacker that they might be able to try to get a one-on-one matchup with, those are the chess pieces that the 49ers have on offense. And I think, we could go around and round on who has the better skill players. I think it's pretty even. But I think about the only spot where the 49ers might have an advantage is that I think their offensive weapons are more versatile and are maybe able to kind of pinpoint specific matchups. And I'm not just talking, a wide receiver against a cornerback. I'm talking about, more in the middle of the field, kind of working the coverages and trying to get, maybe that linebacker who's not great in coverage, maybe even on a rundown, getting him isolated against McCaffrey or Kittle. So, when I look at these teams, I see the Eagles with a lot of advantages. That would be possibly one area where the 49ers have these kind of interchangeable pieces on offense, where the 49ers have an advantage, I think, over the Eagles.
Right. Barry, you want to jump in? We got you back up.
Yeah. When you talk about two even teams, and I would say they were even, like you said, as far as weapons and what they bring to the table, defensively, offensively. I'm trying to look for things that could sway back and forth that would get one side an advantage or a disadvantage. And I keep coming back to the quarterback position being an advantage for the Eagles. And it just happens to be the most important position in football, period, and in sports, period. I mean, to me, I think that pendulum kind of rocks a lot in the Eagles' way because they have. I don't think their defense is necessarily played against a player the caliber of Jalen Hurts at this point.
I agree with you, and I think that when you look at what the 49ers do with Brock Purdy, what he's very good at is he finds the open guy, and he's a ball distributor. He's like the old college pass first point guard. And, he's got some great weapons, when you're talking about Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and Christian McCaffrey. And they have a number of different guys that they can go to. Where I see Jalen Hurts is, yes, he has a ton of weapons too. The guys on the outside, Gainwell and Sanders and Goddard. But also I see Jalen Hurts as being his own weapon too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So like when you talk about Brock Purdy and the weapons around him, the playmakers, the supporting cast, you think of him handing the ball off to McCaffrey or Elijah Mitchell, or getting the ball out, in this case, probably pretty quickly, to some of those guys, Kittle and Ayuk and Samuel. And the same can be said exactly for what Jalen Hurts has as far as the weapons at his disposal, but he also has his own two legs as a huge weapon. I mean, we're talking about the number 2 rusher on his team,
right?
And up there, like 700 yards rushing. So that is a big part of the Eagles offense that the 49ers really don't have. Now, on the other side of the coin here, the 49ers have some very good linebackers, and I don't know how much the 49ers will be in base, but when they're in their base defense, they'll have Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, and Azeez Al-Shire. And those are 3 linebackers who are fast and aggressive. And so if there's a team that might be in a better position to limit Jalen Hurts' effectiveness on the ground, it could be the 49ers, but that is a tall order.
Where are they susceptible, Matt? Like, where can the Eagles offense attack them defensively? We know the numbers are off the charts and what Bosa does, but where are there some weaknesses? I saw they're 20th against the pass, but where can you take advantage of them?
Down the field. So if the Eagles hold up in pass protection, which I'm sure people who've watched the Eagles all season feel like that's a pretty good strength of theirs, then there will be opportunities down the field. And the 49ers have had some blown coverages. They've given up some big plays. Even last week, CeeDee Lamb caught a 50-yarder. Right. And so there will be opportunities down the field. And, the 49ers have not been good in that. So much of their game is predicated on being able to get to the quarterback, throw off timing between the quarterback and the receiver, get some hits on the quarterback. Nick Bosa, 18.5 sacks, led the league. The 49ers don't have a whole lot of balance as far as the pass rush goes. I mean, they have some guys who can kind of step up and get a sack from time to time, but they don't have what the Eagles have, which is 4 guys with 11 sacks or more. So to me, the 49ers will. I think that the Eagles have the big play capability to strike in a hurry. And if they can connect on a deep 1 or 2 or 3, that's kind of playing into what they want to do. And that would be playing into what's been a vulnerability of the 49ers.
Matt, I saw a great stat this morning pertaining to the 49ers offense. 73% of the time they go to pre-snap motions. And Purdy is 4th in the league in terms of completions at 80, and he's number 1 in the league in terms of yards per completion in that situation, 9.2. How much does the pre-snap motion play into the continuity and fluidity of this 49ers offense and getting Purdy to settle into a game a lot sooner rather than later?
Yeah, so that's a huge part of what they do. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. And I kind of outlined one of them, which was like to be able to identify matchups. And it also gives Brock Purdy maybe a more clear picture pre-snap of what the defense is going to be doing. So when you do those motions and shifting formations, a lot of it is to, maybe it's what the 49ers are trying to do is hand Brock Purdy the test, and he can see the answer of the test before the ball is snapped. So, that's been a very effective part of probably kind of working him in as well. It's, hey, you see what you see pre-snap, and, you have, defenses that you can kind of confirm what they're doing based on how they're moving or how they're adjusting to all the pre-snap motions and shifts. So that is a huge part of it. And it's also to, early on, it'll be to see how they're reacting, how the Eagles defense is reacting, so that Kyle Shanahan can kind of stick that into the back of his mind and maybe come back to something later that was set up earlier in the game. So it is a very big part of what they're doing and their whole plan of how to attack a defense.
Okay.
Matt, they just your impressions of the Eagles. I always like to get this. We're so in our own eye of the storm here. But what do you, when you look at this team and this matchup and the challenge it's going to be for the Niners? Just what are your thoughts about the Eagles?
Well, I thought watching the 49ers through certainly the second half of the season was that the 49ers have star power, throughout their roster.
Right.
Really only one great offensive lineman, but basically every position group they have at least one star. The Eagles are that and more. That's my impression, is that the Eagles have multiple offensive linemen, multiple defensive linemen, a really good linebacker, maybe even more than one, but certainly one really good linebacker. Their corners are good. The wide receivers, the running. I mean, they're loaded. I think they're an absolutely loaded team. And I think, the challenge is for the 49ers and for Kyle Shanahan to try to find some weakness to exploit. And I get the sense that they feel like they can go after the safeties a little bit in coverage. I mean, this is going to be, the 49ers will have to be able to run the ball effectively. If they're facing 3rd and 6, 7, 8, it's going to be a long day for Brock Purdy, and the Eagles are going to feast. So this could be one of those games where maybe early on they're throwing on rundowns and they're passing, or they're running on passing downs just to try to keep one step ahead of the Eagles and try to slow them down a little bit. If the 49ers can get the run game going a little bit. And I know, the Eagles struggled run-wise defensively, but they seem to have kind of cleaned that up over the second half of the season. But that's the formula. 49ers have to be balanced. I guess the other side is if they're not balanced, but it's leaning heavily toward the run, then the 49ers are in the position they want to be in.
Right.
But I just don't see a whole lot of weaknesses with this Eagles team. I think I think when you look at their roster and their depth chart, I think they're the most talented team in football.
Well, all things being equal, then you look at the players, look at that roster. Let's break down the coaches then. Who do you think has the best set of coaches? Nick and his guys, Kyle and his guys. You got a lot of coordinators, on these teams right now. We've had 2 of our coordinators get interviewed. You have one of your coordinators getting interviewed. Who do you see as the best coaching style, and who could really swing the pendulum their way?
Yeah, that's a tough one for me to answer because I don't know Nick Sirianni and his coaching staff. I'm around these guys a lot. And this is probably just kind of regional bias because I do have a decent idea how Kyle Shanahan's brain works. I think that if the 49ers win this game, it'll be because of Kyle Shanahan in large part, putting his guys in positions to exploit matchups. And so I think if it's an even playing field with the coaching staff and with turnovers and the funny bounces that a ball can take, I think the Eagles win this game. But to me, kind of the X factor would be what Kyle Shanahan has up his sleeve as far as identifying something on this day that's going to work and work repeatedly.
Hey, Matt, give us some insight on this guy, George Kittle. You see him, clowning to the camera, talking in high voices, but when the lights go up, the dude plays like somebody stole his last dollar, man. Plays angry every down, man. How does he turn his light switch on and off so frequently?
Yeah, he he's often said that, football is fun. It should be fun. It's, it's stressful. And if you just sit around and think about how stressful it can be and how dangerous it can be, that you wouldn't ever have fun and you'd be tight and you wouldn't be able to play. So he certainly makes a conscious effort to smile, to clown around, to have fun. But from snap to whistle, it's all business. And he plays hard. I mean, he plays super hard. He's got this positive energy about him. And Kyle Shanahan is actually kind of annoyed a lot of times because when Kyle's like laying into people and it's George who brings the positivity. And he's like, God, I wish he wasn't always so positive. There are times when you gotta kind of feel negative too. But he's an interesting guy, and he's like that all the time. I mean, his little interview gaggles around his locker always kind of devolve into craziness, and just he brings fun to the game. I don't know. I was watching that game. Obviously, I was at the game Sunday when the 49ers played the Cowboys. And so I didn't watch it on TV, but I'm, afterward I'm seeing, him watching the overhead camera and, making faces and all that. And I'm thinking, 49er fans love it, but what do other fans think? Like, do the Cowboys fans, they have to hate that, right? And I'm sure Eagles fans won't be too, thrilled if, he's doing that and the 49ers are winning. So, he's an ambassador for tight ends too. I'm sure he and Dallas Goedert know each other very well.
Very well. Yeah, they go to the camp together.
Yeah, so they do that camp, the tight end U, and so he's one of these guys that everybody likes. He's got I've gotten to know his family, and they're super good people, and he's fun. I mean, he makes it fun, and he has fun, and his thing was that. One of the first coaches he had, I think it was John Embry, told him, just because you have the ball doesn't mean that you have to get tackled.
Right.
Which is an interesting concept.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And so he feels that way. Like, hey, just because I have the ball and these guys are trying to tackle me doesn't mean I have to go down. And so I sense Dallas Goedert's the same way.
Yeah, he's tough after catch. Yeah.
It's like he's tossing guys to the side. They play. I think they kind of remind me.
They mirror each other. Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. No question. Well, you bring that up, and I personally, I get a kick out of Kittle. That's just me, but whatever. I don't know how their fans will react. But Nick Sirianni can turn some people off too with some of his histrionics. Now, I look at it as that's genuinely who he is. He's not a put on for the camera. He's the excitable guy, that kind of thing. It connects with his players, but he's getting some national pushback, I guess, for some of the way he reacts on the sideline, et cetera. Is that the feeling among Bay Area fans, Niner fans? Do you get that sense, Matt?
No, I don't. There's a difference of, I think, how he does it. I don't think he's ever been disrespectful to the opponent. Right. Yeah. And so that's a big thing. I'll give you an example. Last year, week 18 of the 2021 season, the 49ers needed, they had to beat the Rams in order to move on to the playoffs. And so I think it was in maybe the second quarter of that game. And I forget what the score was. The Rams might have gone up 21-0, and they made a big play. And Sean McVay left the coaching box to run down into the end zone and celebrate with the players. Everybody on the 49ers sideline saw that.
Right.
And that pissed some people off.
Yeah.
So when it's genuine enthusiasm and you're cheering on your own guys and you're not showing up the opposition, that is completely different than doing something where, whatever, you're looking across the field and pointing or, anything like that. Right. So I honestly have not heard anything negative about Nick Sirianni.
Matt, I saw a great story from Pro Football Talk earlier in the week. I believe it was Monday. And even as early as Monday, it said 18% of tickets for this game have already gone to 49er fans. You expect them to travel this well coming far west to the east for this game?
Yes, I do. Because, and here's why. And it's not necessarily all those people coming from the West Coast.
Right.
I think when the 49ers had their run, their first wave of success in the 80s, how old are those people now?
Right.
The kids, and it's they became a national team. Not America's team. We'll keep that to some other, some other organization. But everywhere they've gone, and this has become this phenomena, I think, throughout the nation. And I'm sure you see it when, the Eagles go outside of their area, whether they go to the South or the West.
Sure.
People travel now. Like that, people, when the schedule comes out, people look at that schedule and go, for 49er fans, oh, hey, they're playing the Saints. Let's go to New Orleans, or they're playing here, they're playing there. And so the last few years, it's probably been 5 or 6 years now. And especially, I think it's even gone up since the return to full stadiums after COVID. 49er fans travel great. I mean, they took over the Rams stadium last year, and for the past, actually, since they moved back to LA, 49ers have taken over Rams home games. And we saw it like in Vegas, the 49ers fans took over Vegas. So 18% that's a pretty high number. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me to see even more people there, because they're not only coming from the West Coast, they're 49er fans all across the country. And I think a lot of it had to do with, in people's formula of the years, they're watching the 49ers win Super Bowls in the 1980s. And then they're going, that's my team. And anytime that team comes into their geographical area, we're going. And so this could be one of those games too.
Matt, give me your impressions of DeMeco Ryans. We saw him here as a player with the Eagles, as classy as you get, smart as you get. No surprise the success he's had, but your impressions of being around him every day.
He's impressive. Yeah, he will be a head coach. I don't know that it's going to be in this hiring cycle. I would suspect it will be, but he's also shown that if he doesn't feel right about a situation, he has no problem taking his name out of the hat. No, but and it's not just the X's and O's. That I think that actually might be the most. I mean, depending on who you are, and that might be the most overrated part of being an NFL head coach, the X's and O's, because a lot of that is done by your assistants anyway. But it's building culture. It's knowing the right buttons to push. It's knowing the individuals, how you relate to them, how do you get the most out of them. And for those, I mean, DeMeco Ryans is 10 out of 10. I mean, he's an exceptional, person, people, he's a guy who can relate to people. I mean, Nick Bosa just the other day was just saying that he is the best coach that he's ever been around. And he kind of like I just did, he kind of brushed aside the X's and O's, and he's like, he knows how to push people, but not push them too hard. And he knows how, he knows these guys well enough that he can relate to each one of them and know exactly, basically which buttons to push to get the most out of each individual, and then bring them all together and have them working, for a common goal. So he is a CEO type. And I think that's what NFL teams should be looking for. And, whichever team gets him, whenever they get him, that's going to be a fortunate team.
Matt, give us your prediction, man. What happens in this game?
You're going to
put you right on that spot. Get on the spot.
Here we go.
You know what? I've been kind of leaning toward the Eagles all week. Yeah, no, I think the Eagles are the better team. It's tough to predict some of those stuff, but I would say it's going to be. I think both teams will score in the low 20s to high teens, and I think that the 49ers they're going to need some breaks to go their way, or Kyle Shanahan's going to have a really good game and expose some things in the Eagles, and maybe you guys don't even know that the Eagles can be exposed about. So, right now, I think the point spread is, what is it, like 2.5 right now?
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's right there where it should be. I think the Eagles are a better team. Here's the thing that I always kind of leave myself some wiggle room, though. is because I've been around this team and I see their mindset and I see how they work and I know how serious they take it. And when you're around a team, you always feel like, man, that's a team of destiny. Like, because you see the stuff behind the scenes. Now, some teams you're so close and you're going, man, this team doesn't have a chance because the culture is just a miss. I've never gotten the sense with this team that anything is wrong behind the scenes. They play well on the field. And so my little wiggle room would be that, the 49ers really are that team, and all the things I see, it will impact this game. But I can guarantee you, as I say that, the three of you are thinking the same thing about the Eagles.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, well said. Yeah, absolutely. Matt, good stuff, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Enjoyed having you on.
Good talking to you, man.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
You stay in Philadelphia, man.
I definitely will, and I am looking so forward to this game Sunday, as I'm sure all you are. It is.
Yeah,
I think it's an epic matchup, and I just love the fact that the two best teams, without question, are the Eagles and the 49ers, and here they are.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well said. Two behemoths. Matt, appreciate it, man. Take care.
Nice.
Have a good day, man.
All right, take care. That is Matt Maiocco of NBC Sports Bay Area. You can also catch him on KNBR 680 out there, and he's got a podcast called 49ers Talk. And I know, Derek, you've checked it out too. It's very good. Very well done by Matt. Interesting. Good for him. Very objective. Thinks the Eagles win the game on top of everything else. So good stuff there. We come back. Barrett's going to break down what needs to happen, who needs to step up, aside from the obvious, the Jalen Hurts of the world, game plan, what you attack, with Niners weaknesses, all those kind of things when we come back. So don't go anywhere. Derek Gunn, Barrett Brooks, Rob Ellis, we're Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. I want to tell you right now about Pro Action Restoration. Yes, Pro Action Restoration is the place that you call if your home, a business, or a property that you may own has experienced water, fire, smoke, mold damage. You name it, they can help you. Pro Action Restoration is on call 24 hours, 7 days a week. I can tell you from personal experience. I reached out to them on a Saturday. Was having some flooding in my parents' basement. They got right over there. They cleaned it up. The crew was professional. The price was very reasonable. It was a sigh of relief kind of experience. They are licensed, bonded, fully insured. They've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action will work in conjunction with your insurance company. And again, it could be water, it could be fire, it could be smoke damage, mold remediation, you name it. They can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com, proactionrestoration.com.